If you talk to representatives of Mazda Australia, they'll tell you about a phrase that I guess you could describe as affordable premium or attainable premium. They speak about that a lot. And to be fair to the brand, that's been the perception of Mazda in this market in Australia for quite some time. And the vehicle behind me is the new Mazda CX-90. It slots into their lineup hot on the heels of the release of the CX-60 and is the latest in that premium ambition. Now, this vehicle, with options at the top of the range, can get right up near $100,000, which you might think is a lot of money for a Mazda. However, it's significantly more affordable than established European competition with similar levels of equipment. So I think Mazda is certainly going on that journey of getting to affordable or attainable premium. We're going to take a closer look at the Mazda CX-90 in a second, starting with the cabin, but certainly on paper, this large SUV, that's a 3-row setup, which is going to be perfect for family buyers, looks like it's going to appeal to the exact target market that Mazda has in mind. I suspect the styling is going to play a big part of that as well, but we'll take a closer look at that in a minute. This is the new Mazda CX-90. Let's start with the cabin. As per the premium focus, the CX-90's cabin is beautifully put together and executed to a high level. The choice of materials, fit and finish and general trim is top-notch. Standard features include a 10.25-inch infotainment screen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, 7-inch instrument display, surround view camera, power-adjustable front seats, leather trim, 8 speakers, hands-free power tailgate, head-up display, and a full suite of advanced safety technology. More expensive model grades switch to a 12.3-inch infotainment screen, as well as a 12.3-inch instrument display, adaptive LED headlights, panoramic sunroof, ventilated front seats, 12-speaker Bose sound system, and power steering column adjustment. The optional $5,000 SP and Takumi packages swap the 3-seat second-row bench for individual captain's chairs with ventilation and add unique white or tan seat trim. One area that is really important to deliver on and tick all the boxes if you're aspiring to be premium is right here inside the cabin. And the good news is, regardless of which specification of CX-90 you choose, or which one fits in your budget more specifically, you're going to get a cabin that feels pretty premium however you look at it. The choice of materials, the fit, the finish, the switch gear, the way all the controls feel, the insulation when you're driving, which we'll get to in a minute, makes a big difference to how you feel when you're behind the wheel. This is a comfortable cabin to be in. It's beautifully put together. And as I said, the choice of materials everywhere, across the top of the dash, the door tops, all the surfaces that you touch and come into contact with are really high end. We haven't yet tested Apple CarPlay at launch. We will test that when we get the vehicle through the drive garage for a week-long test. But the switch gear, the native satellite navigation, the steering wheel controls, they're all really easy to understand, typical of Mazda. They all work. The functionality is excellent. I like this zone down here for the climate control. That makes a lot of sense to position all the buttons there where you can see them and they're easy to get to. You've got wireless charging. You've got useful cup holders. You've got a storage bin in here as well. Not as deep probably as you might expect, but useful enough if you want to plug a device in and charge it, or put your wallet and keys in there and keep them out of the way of prying eyes. But this cabin is comfortable, well executed. Doesn't matter whether you're driving around town or out on a country road, it's a really good place to be. Let's take a quick look at the second row. Couple of things to note when you're in the second row for family buyers. First of all, these sunshades are excellent. Really easy to get up, put them back where they belong. Great if you've got kids back here in baby seats. And CX-90 has a sunshade across that glass roof that actually works. There's a novel concept. There's plenty of manufacturers that aren't able to deliver. Mazda has done exactly that. Now, the seat specifically, pretty comfortable. That's my driving position there. I don't feel like I'm sitting up too high. I've got plenty of room all around me. You can, of course, adjust the seat. So I could push that all the way forward if I needed to. Goes all the way back as well. We're a little bit restricted at launch as to how we can test these vehicles. So what we are going to do post-launch is we'll load this up with 7 adults once we've got one in the drive garage and have a really good look at the third row. And then also what happens to the ride and the ride quality when you've got 7 adults on board. But If you're using this as a 4-seater regularly, there is plenty of room. As you can see, I've got heaps of room back here. It's really quite comfortable. You get air vents, you get 2 USB-C ports. This particular specification has got heated outboard seats, and you've got climate controls back here as well. This is a well catered to family SUV in terms of the way that you're going to use the second row and live with it, because it's comfortable, visibility is good. This will not be the sort of SUV that the kids are stuck in on a road trip screaming that they want to get out. As I said, we'll take a closer look at the third row when we spend some more time with the CX-90. However, having spent some time back here and driven it on country roads, this is going to be a practical family tourer. We'll test the third row more closely post-launch, but there's space back there for a 6-foot adult as long as you don't have occupants taller than that in the second row. Head and shoulder room especially is a highlight in the third row, and with all 3 rows in use, you get 257 litres of storage. Fold the third row down and that expands to 608 litres, and with the second row out of play, you get a whopping 2,025 litres to play with. The CX-90 range is an easy one to work out with 3 model variants, all available with a petrol or diesel engine and 2 options packages. The range starts at $73,800 before on-road cost for the price-leading G50E Touring petrol model. The range topper is the D50E Azami diesel, which starts from $92,540 before on-road costs. I suspect the sweet spot in the range might be either of the GT models, which sit in the middle of the CX-90 grade run and in the mid-80k range before on-road costs. To stay up to date with the future of the new Mazda CX-90 and any of the other new SUVs like it, make sure you subscribe to the Drive YouTube channel. Our launch drive was predominantly 2-up on 80 to 100 km/h country roads, so we haven't experienced the CX-90 in choked up city traffic yet, but that will be the first port of call post-launch. On country roads though, its practicality as a family tourer comes to the fore. Visibility is excellent, the cabin is beautifully appointed and comfortable, and the CX-90 settles into a relaxed cruise up to highway speed. What's most interesting when you run the petrol and diesel back to back is how punchy the diesel engine is. With 187 kilowatts against 254 kilowatts, you might expect it to offer less performance potential than the petrol 6-cylinder, but it offers peak torque of 550 Newton meters against the petrol engine's 500 Newton meters, so the mid-range is solid. Both are efficient engines, with the diesel claiming 5.4 litres per 100 kilometres and the petrol claiming 8.2 litres per 100 kilometres on the combined cycle. The CX-90's ride is on the firm side of the ledger, especially on bumpy roads and poor surfaces. It's not uncomfortable or harsh through the cabin, but it is firm. We suspect the ride will be more comfortable around town and when it is loaded up with passengers, but if you spend a bit of time in your SUV solo, keep note that it won't ride like a Prado. You could argue that the ride has been tuned to keep pace with the premium Euro competition Mazda is chasing. Philosophically, that's an interesting argument in relation to the premium brands. Were they always premium? Or did they start out simply building cars and they evolved into a premium offering? If the latter theory is the case, that might be exactly what Mazda is doing before our eyes. Who knows? In 20 years, we might look back on this time as Mazda's transition point. Now, Mazda has managed to take an upper large SUV because, make no mistake, this is a big vehicle. It's a really, really big vehicle, big wagon, big SUV, however you want to term it. But Mazda's managed to take a vehicle of this size and still make it look elegant. Designers talk a lot about design language and what that means, but in theory, this looks and feels like a Mazda from the minute you see one parked or moving around in traffic. I think that's important because Mazda buyers have a specific idea in mind. And the rear of the vehicle is where I think a lot of the focus would be. I'd be interested to hear your feedback on that, but the second and third rows and the luggage space are going to be a big focus for family buyers who are buying a vehicle this big. The second row works really well, whether it's a 6-seat or 7-seat interior. Second row works particularly well. And the third row is even useful for adults around the 6-foot height, as long as you don't have super tall adults in the second row, because then it could get a little bit tight. But the cabin of the CX-90, very flexible, and I think it's going to be useful for families who need a 3-row SUV to get the kids around. Let us know what you think in the comments section below. Is this the sort of large SUV you'd be looking at? Is it too big? If you think it's too big, let us know why you think it's too big. Don't forget, as always, hit like if you've enjoyed the video. Click on subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of Drive's latest video content and the full review of the new Mazda CX-90. That's over at drive.com.au.